Morning, or afternoon, I guess. In New York, it's afternoon, where Jean came from, so she lived there for a long time. I am Steve Curry, and am Jean's oldest surviving nephew or niece. I have an older sister who passed away in the 50s, but I'm the oldest of the group of cousins. I have 3 cousins in Colorado, who are all 2 are here today, and a brother Paul who's here. So Jean had no children. So those cousins and my brother and I are her representative children, I guess, today. Jean was born in 1921 in Illinois, and at a very young age, Jean and the family moved to Hibbing, Minnesota. If you ever talked to her, you knew she was from Hibbing, and you knew her sisters were from Hibbing because they told you regularly, so you never forgot. She grew up there and graduated from Hibbing High School with the other 162 students in her class in 1939. She went on to attend Hibbing Junior College, now named something different, but called Hibbing Junior College at that point, which meant that she could go to the same school building from kindergarten all the way through 2 years in college. Before World War II started for the United States in 1941, she left Hibbing to attend the same university that her father had graduated from, University of Wisconsin-Madison. There she studied and graduated with a degree in mathematics, yes, mathematics, and a minor in accounting and statistics, something that was highly unusual for women in that era. Jean told me stories about being the only woman in most of her mathematics classes and was very proud that she succeeded in a field of study that many men had failed at. In 1943, she graduated from the University of Wisconsin in Madison on a Friday, hopped on a train to New York City, and started work the following Monday morning at Metropolitan Life Insurance Company. She had written a paper on actuarial science in 8th grade when she was 14 years old and decided right then and there that that was a field for her. She was a fairly single-minded woman. Actuarial science is used by mathematicians to determine the likelihood of an event, which allows insurance companies to set their rates. So she found the perfect employer with a life insurance company in New York City. Working at MetLife wasn't exactly a ticket to financial success back then. She was paid $30 per week and watched as the men around her were paid $35 per week. Being a mathematician and a statistician and an actuary, and following the expectancy tables that insurance companies used, she didn't let the pay difference bother her between the men and her. After all, she told me, she knew that she was going to outlive all those men and catch up to their working and retirement earnings by living longer than they would ever have done anyway. In her career, she worked her way up the ranks of actuaries to the point where she managed a team of 40 people. And Jean, by the way, did know her math. She did outlast so many of the men who were paid more than she was paid. Even the MetLife people that I spoke to after her retirement admitted that they never expected her to live so long. In 1950, Jean married Allo, a man she had met at a church club who had been an Arthur Murray dance instructor in college. That, as it turned out, was what Jean noticed most about him, his dancing skills. Her future mother-in-law wasn't so sure that Jean was the right one for her only son. When Jean heard this, instead of making peace with her mother-in-law, which seemed to be her main way of doing things with people, instead she forced the issue with her future husband, Al. She said, quote, "You choose me now, or I'm gone." As Jean liked to tell me with kind of a twinkle in her eye, quote, "On our second wedding anniversary, my mother-in-law died. I guess I showed her." I heard that story a lot. Those of us that knew her husband Al always thought that his commanding style put him in the driver's seat of their marriage. When I asked her about that when she was well into her 90s, she replied simply, "Who do you think allowed him to think he was in the driver's seat?" This is a woman who had quite a quiet type of grit. She stuttered when she was growing up and all the way through college. After moving to New York City, she heard about a psychiatrist who was doing experimental treatments on people who stuttered and was having success treating them. She went to him for about 6 months and was able to be totally cured of her stutter. She said totally cured. We all did notice a bit of it occasionally, but for the most part, she was totally cured of her stutter, according to her. For many years, we never believed that Jean could ever say anything bad about or to anybody. When asked what she would do if someone asked her opinion of their new outfit that she didn't quite care for, she replied, "I tell them, well, that outfit has lovely buttons." So I hope, by the way, that nobody in this room was told they had lovely buttons by Jean. Now you know what she was really saying. A few months after she married Al Peetz, they moved into an apartment in Stuyvesant Town in the East Village area of New York City. Stuyvesant Town is an apartment complex, or I should really call it a city, of 80 acres with 110 apartment buildings, over 8,700 apartments, and about 25,000 residents. They paid, in 1951, $51 per month in rent, utilities included, and benefited for decades from New York City's rent control laws and kept living there affordable for the next 63 years in the same apartment. And by the way, you should have seen how full her closets were. This great location allowed Jean to walk to work, no matter the season. After all, she'd grown up in Hibbing, and New York City was kind of a cakewalk compared to living in Hibbing when it came to weather. That also meant, by the way, that she never needed to get a driver's license, ever. She had grown up in a house where her father was an engineer, and he would not allow her to get a driver's license until she had mastered the complete repair manual for their family car. Not just the owner's manual understanding how to drive it, but the complete repair manual. So being too busy to bother with that, she just put off getting a driver's license forever. After 40 years working at MetLife, she retired and filled her life with activity. She got herself educated in graphoanalysis and then in the science of document examination. She worked as a certified document examiner to determine if documents were forged, and created a business that I thought was really kind of just a hobby. She never talked much about it, except that she knew how to analyze handwriting. Until we were cleaning out her apartment in New York City and found hundreds and hundreds of case files that she had done in her testimonies in court cases over the years in New York. She also worked on learning the Welsh language. She was active in the Welsh Club of New York City and continued her tradition of celebrating St. David's Day with the club for 71 consecutive years. After 70 years of that, she was recognized as their longest term member. After all, she had started going there in 1943 in the middle of World War II. She was very proud of her Welsh heritage. Living in New York City put Jean in the middle of a few historic events. She talked about where she was on VJ Day, the day that the Japanese surrendered in the U.S. to the United States in World War II. You may have seen this famous photo on the cover of Life magazine, okay? The famous American sailor who had found, not quite sure if she was a nurse or a passerby. Well, Jean was there in Times Square on that day when not necessarily saw that, but she was there celebrating VJ Day. And by the way, as my mother Barbara says, she was too. Eleanor, where were you? Eleanor was the woman Hibbing, so. You may remember the catastrophic power outage that hit most of New York City in July 1977. Jean had been shopping at a department store and always took the elevators when she was there. But that one day, she felt the urge to take the stairs on her way out of the store. Right at the time that she would have been in the elevator, the electricity went out across the city for over 24 hours. Her luck prevented her from being stuck in that elevator overnight and for the majority of the next day. She fought to be one of the first women to be an usher at a church in New York City. It wasn't until she was 88 years old that they changed the policy at Marble Collegiate Church that would allow her to serve. But she made sure she was there when they were allowed. Jean was very close to her sisters Barbara Curry and Eleanor Suttle. In February of 1993, Jean, along with her sisters, were in the Twin Cities to visit their mother, my grandmother, who was critically ill at the age of 99. On the 16th of that month, February 16th, their mother, my grandmother Evelyn, passed away. 25 years later to the day, the three sisters were together again in the Twin Cities, but this time it was Jean who was critically ill. She died exactly 25 years after her mother died. And if tradition continues, the rest of us, my cousins, my brother, and me, had better be wary of that same date 25 years from now, on February 16, 2043. She has been at Friendship Village here in Bloomington for the past few years, moving here on May 31st, 2014, After moving back to Minnesota, she became a member of St. Stephen's Episcopal Church, whose entertainers, you don't want to be called entertainers, do you? He kind of half agreed, are here officiating the service today. So she's preceded in death by her husband, Al Peetz, her parents, Evelyn and Verl Williams, and her sister Anne, who, by the way, wasn't mentioned in the obituary. I somehow missed that. She had an older sister, Anne, who was born a year after Jean was in 1922 and passed away at the age of 7 years old. Even into her 90s, Jean would remind me that she was careful at crossing every street corner because Anne's death, being hit by a car, made such an impact on her. So walking hand in hand with her across the streets in New York City would always remind her of her sister Anne. She is survived by her sisters, Barbara Curry and Eleanor Sull, 5 nieces and nephews, Steve Curry, Paul, and Shelley Curry, Richard Archambault, who is critically ill in Colorado right now and couldn't make it today, Annette and Patrick Archambault, and Jane and Chris Allo, 13 grand-nieces and nephews, Dan Curry, Matt Curry, Sidney Curry, Sean Curry, Carl String, Brian String, Curtis String, Jim Schmid, Amy Archambault, Nicole Archambault, Roy Archambault, Kelsey Archambault, and Natalie Allo. Thank you very much for coming today. Jean would have very much appreciated it.
Hello, and thank you for sharing in the celebration of Jean's life. I'm Jane Allo. I'm one of Jean's nieces, Eleanor Sull's daughter. Some of this may be a little bit repetitious, but maybe we can get a little bit more of color on Jean's more fun, emotional side instead of just her, thank you, Steve, her accomplishments. Jean lived her life with passion. She boldly pursued her interests and joys. She loved dancing, engaging with people, animals, and gardening. She was a trailblazer, acquiring a degree in mathematics and working in a man's typical role. Completely confident, highly intelligent, both intellectually and emotionally, simply brilliant. Her desire and curiosity to understand all aspects of life brought her many challenges, joys, and enrichments to her life as well as to the many people she touched. And she touched many people. Jean loved purple. She loved her many friends, family, and she loved traveling. Her thirst for truth manifested in learning to analyze handwriting, and she excelled in this too and became highly desired as a valuable professional witness for our justice system. Jean loved living here at Friendship Village, always commenting on how wonderful the staff is and how many friends she was making. We thank you for all the loving care she received while living here. We will forever treasure the many fond memories with Jean, with love to our friend, sister, aunt. May Jean dance with joy in the purple heavens above forever. Thank you.